Laura, I know that you have actually done a little bit of work on this case. There's a Christian baker named Jack Phillips. He was the guy that was the defendant in the Masterpiece Cake Shop case in the Supreme Court. And you'll remember that there was a gay couple that was asking him to make a gay wedding cake. He's like, no, I'm a Christian. I don't do that. I mean, this guy sticks to his guns, and he's been consistent. He doesn't even make Halloween cakes. I mean, that's how choosy he is on which of the cakes that he makes, because he has a moral conviction about it. And,
I can't blame him. It's a dumb holiday.
Oh, what, Halloween?
Yeah, it is.
I've seen you put up Halloween decorations.
I put up a pumpkin, but only so I can throw it out the window.
All right, well, it's not really neither here nor there. But anyway, off of the merits of Halloween. So that's what happened to Jack Phillips, and he wound up winning his case, but the Supreme Court defended it on about the narrowest ground possible. And basically, if you're looking at their opinion...
It was basically a punt.
Yeah, basically what they were saying is, it's okay for Colorado to discriminate against this guy as long as they're not, like, super mean about it. And I know that that's a paraphrase, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, that's basically what they said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was.
As long as they're nice and friendly about it, then they can say, you know, screw you, and you have to make this cake anyway. And that was a really stupid ruling for the Supreme Court to put forward, and here's why. We're seeing somebody ordering a transition day cake from him. And so now what they're doing is, because basically the Supreme Court gave them the blueprint of how to discriminate against this guy in their opinion. Well, now they're doing exactly that. This same baker who's already gone through this, who's already spent all this money and all this time away from his business to handle the Supreme Court case, now they're coming at him again and requesting that he make a transition cake. And now the commission that oversees this is going to just be really nice about it and not call him a Nazi. And then the case is going to wind up going to court again. And for all we know, this might wind up in the Supreme Court again. This is why the Supreme Court should have handled it the correct way and should have actually given a strong ruling on whether or not a business is obligated to serve a gay couple that wants a wedding cake. And they should have been more clear in their opinion on that, because of them not doing that, they're probably going to have to hear basically the exact same case over again, which wastes a lot of time and resources. And on top of that, these people are trying to ruin this guy's life. And because
I mean, they have come after him so many times. It's hard to look at it and not say, hey, this is a bit of a conspiracy here.
But it's harassment.
Yeah.
I mean, they're basically trying him for exactly the same suit that they did beforehand. And here's what I would do. And this guy seems like a super nice guy, which means he's probably not much like me at all. But if I were running this bakery, which is a terrifying thought because I can't bake. I can cook, but I can't bake. If I were running this bakery, what I would do is I would make a plain cake with white icing, nothing on it, and I would present it to him. And when they said, hey, this isn't a transition day cake, I was like, well, how do you know whether the cake identifies as a transition day cake or not? For all you know, that is a transit. You bigot. That's how I would handle it. Just say the cake identifies as a transition day cake.
It's a valid argument.
I don't know how they would come back from that. I mean, I really don't. Could you
I'm looking forward to seeing the briefs on it this time. I think probably the reason they're coming after him again is because they want to see the court make a more firm ruling on this and not punt like they did last time. I'm wondering, I can't believe they're doing it because I don't think they're going to go the way the liberals want them to. Like, I just don't. You know, I don't have great hopes for our Supreme Court right now, but I don't think they're going to be like, oh yeah, you totally have to bake that cake.
So even though you're not the biggest Kavanaugh fan, and I'm not either, you think that if this case comes before them, then they're going to have to give a much more specific verdict on whether or not this is okay or not?
Well, I'm going to give you the most lawyer answer possible and say it really depends. It's going to depend on how they phrase it, and it's all about like what you present to the Supreme Court. I'm working on a case right now where
this is why people don't like lawyers, right?
It's so true, though. I mean, but it matters. It really matters what you say. I mean, it's how you set it up and everything. It matters, and it depends on how they set this case up. Like let's say we're talking about baseball, if the pitcher sets it up for the batter to miss,
sure,
he's probably going to miss. But if we set it up where he has to hit it a certain way, you know, we can see how this is going to go. Same thing with the Supreme Court. If we set it up right, we can work with it. Hopefully they've done it in the right way, and that means maybe we can get a more definite answer.
Well, the Alliance Defending Freedom is going to be the one that's on his side, just like last time. So I imagine they will have their homework done.
Yeah, and they're really good at that.
They're really good.
Nothing but the best respect for them. But they, and what I'm wondering about with this is, with how they set this up, will the Supreme Court take it? Because you're looking at a really messy area of the law. The Establishment Clause and freedom of speech, anything with the First Amendment is messy. It is the most ridiculous jurisprudence. So, I mean, you're looking at, you know, with Kavanaugh, my biggest thing with him is he's all about stare decisis. I'm with you. I get that. But he is a strict adherent to it in a way that
now,
I think is
I know what stare decisis is, but explain it to the audience here, because that probably went over just about everybody's head.
Stare decisis, and basically in terms, is just the saying of, if the court said it before, we're just going to stick with that.
Yeah.
So, very basically. So, you know, even to a fault, he kind of follows that doctrine.
Yeah,
there's a place for it, but there is a place to also say, yeah, the court said that before, but they shouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
like Dred Scott.
I definitely understand that, but you know, when it comes to this, here's one thing that I am bothered by. Not even talking about the legal side of it, just from a sort of philosophical standpoint. I have never understood the mentality of people that want to make other people do what they want them to do. Because, you know, I have very strong beliefs. I have very strong opinions. I would not have this job if I didn't. But when I'm looking at it from the outside looking in, I can't imagine trying to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do in any circumstance, which, by the way, is tantamount to slavery. Because if you're saying to somebody, you have to do exactly what I want you to do, and you can't say no, you can't turn me down, then how is that person not a slave? And that's one of the things that I'm brought up with is, of course, there's the First Amendment thing. There's the freedom of religion, the freedom of expression that both play into this because it is an artistic form of expression as well. But more importantly, and I think maybe the question you have to get to before you even get to those other two issues is, we're dealing with a situation where one citizen can say to another citizen, you must serve me. You must use your resources. You must use your talents. You must use your experience, whatever else it is, and pour that into a product to make me, and you can't say no to me. That bothers me. And I can't imagine wanting to do that to another person.
No, yeah. And I wonder, are they going to say you have to serve them and you have to do it for free? Because, I don't know, if it were me and the Supreme Court saying, well, you have to do it, I'd say, okay, I'll do it for $1 million.
Well, and that's another thing, too. I get that he's getting compensation, but still, like, just because you're getting compensation does not mean you're doing so willingly. Like, if they're saying that by law you can't turn these people down for this job, well, then even if you're getting compensation, granted, that's better than getting it for nothing, but that still means that you are essentially an indentured servant. And that's really what bothers me about that. I can't imagine wanting to force somebody else to do it. For example, I just recently got a book printed. And I've written a couple of novels. They're, you know, fantasy, high fantasy kind of things. And I've gotten them printed before, but just recently, because somebody wanted a copy of them, I wound up printing another copy. If the printer had said to me, look, this is obviously a book that's based on Christian principles. I'm an atheist. I don't like Christianity. I don't like how overt the symbolism is in this book. And they said, and I'm not going to print it. You know what? I'd be upset, but I wouldn't want to force them to print it. I go find another printer. I go find somebody that actually does want my business.
That's the great thing about capitalism, is that you have things like that. I mean, with the printers, I know Christian printers. I know secular printers. If you don't like one, you go to the other. Bakers, same thing. If I don't like this baker, I go find another, because capitalism.
Well, that's the thing. It gives you options, which is not something that you have under anything else. And Laura, you and I both know we would never accept this from the other side. Society would never accept it from the other side. If you were if there were a gay baker, and there's actually quite a few of those, and a Christian walked in and wanted them to make a Christmas cake that had a Bible verse on it, or even more specifically, a Bible verse that talked about homosexuality, I think that we would all look at that and go, well, they shouldn't have to make that if they don't want to. Yes, and that same logic should apply to the Christian when he's the one doing the baking.
No, you're assuming that people operate in the world of logic, and I think that's where you go wrong.
Well, see, it does appeal to most people. It's just completely lost on pretty much anybody that's in the social justice warrior camp. On those people, logic makes no difference whatsoever. They really do seem to think that if they swear at you enough and call you enough names that they've won the argument.
Yeah, no.
I've experienced that quite a few times. I actually said to someone the other night who they didn't address any of the concerns that I gave, and I think actually it was on a similar issue. I know it had to do with homosexuality. They said, well, you're just a bigot. I was like, well, let's just assume that I am a bigot. I don't think I am, but let's just assume that I am. That still doesn't mean my argument's wrong. You can be a bigot and still be right.
I mean,
that's not a counter argument.
That's true. I mean, you can. There's some people I don't agree with. Let's see. I'm not a huge fan of Francis Chan. He wrote a book recently that I thought was pretty good, and I don't disagree with it. So just because I don't agree with everything doesn't mean, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, absolutely. I mean,
I've been told that I'm a racist bigot, and maybe that's true, but don't throw out what I'm saying just because I'm a racist bigot,
Yeah, that's the thing. That is not a counter argument to what I'm saying. If what I'm saying is true, then the source doesn't matter, and that's something that is absolutely lost, unfortunately, on most people because they never learned how to operate within the realm of logic. I really love personal liberty. I believe in freedom of expression and freedom of association. And so it is completely up to you whether or not you want to like this video and subscribe to the Tactics Radio YouTube channel. However, I will say this. You know who else never subscribed to my channel? Hitler. So the way I see it, you have two options. You can either like this video and subscribe to Tactics Radio on YouTube, or you can be like Hitler. Totally up to you.